Alrighty. Let's get the party started. 10:15 on the dot. Today is April 16th, 2023. What a time to be alive, man. What a time to be alive. It's your boy Maverick, and you are tapped in with the Traders Guild for the market outlook, weekly market outlook, every single Sunday, 10 p.m. Eastern. And we just gonna go ahead and get into seeing what's the markets providing for us today. As far as it goes with the dollar, looking at the foreign exchange market, looking at the indices market, just really getting an idea for what the week has coming up. Y'all already know the vibes. Like at the end of the day, preparation is key when it comes to trading. You don't want to be a button pusher. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to just be a button pusher. That's how people go ahead and lose their money. So we're gonna go ahead and start off, right? We're gonna go ahead and start off looking at the news. All right, we're gonna start off looking at the news. Let's go ahead and tap in. Let me change this screen. We gonna start off looking at the news, see what they got going on today. What they talking about? Oil prices dip as dollar firms. I don't know, man. You know, anything that's on the front page, you really low key can't trust it. Low key, maybe high key. I'm like, I see what's going on the front page. I'll be like, yeah, the opposite. Gold steadies above 2,000 as market reassesses Fed risks. Okay. China central bank ramps up. Okay. Dollar rebounds on higher expectations for Fed rate hike in May. Okay. Okay. I see what they chatting about on here, man. Let's go ahead and see what we got coming up for this week. Let's see what we got coming up for this week. Man, you know, it's funny, like since the beginning of my career, I've always looked at the news at the top of the week. Always. Like I could only imagine what it would be like if I was not aware of this type of, awareness. Right. But we're gonna go ahead and check out all the medium and high impact news on the week. As far as it pertains to what I specifically trade, at least since it's me. So today is Monday, right? Going into tomorrow. Technically, it's Monday, like in Australia. So tomorrow we have a bunch of medium impact news. But first, let me pay attention to the high impact. We got Euro USD news at 11 a.m. We have Australian dollar news at 9:30 p.m. Chinese news at night. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. And then we got some median impact news in the morning, right around New York Open, U.S. dollar, CAD, GBP, some Euro news. So we might see a little bit of volatility in the morning, but we'll see what we got going on as we check out the charts tonight. If that's worth paying attention to, or if I'm just gonna kind of get an idea for what they got going on. Okay, they got all the interest rates over here. I like that. The next rate hike is May 3rd. Okay, we'll note that. Tuesday, coming up on Tuesday, we're gonna have GBP average index morning index earnings dropping first thing in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, London session. Okay, then we got some Euro news, German news. That's why the flag is there. Some German news, 5 a.m. And also on Tuesday, we got building permits, but like nothing crazy. Like, okay, we got an FOMC speaker 1 o'clock on Tuesday, but this should be a smooth week. It's nothing like NFP, no CPI. We got Canadian CPI on Tuesday, so we can pay attention to that. But as far as the US dollar, I think we got all the critical stuff out the way last week. So we should have a smooth sailing. GBP CPI is dropping tomorrow, Wednesday. Well, not tomorrow, on Wednesday at 2 a.m. as well. CPI for London on not for London, for Euro, for EU on Wednesday as well. So we can expect some volatility out of the Euros this week. Let me see, dollar going yeah, some strength on them this week possibly, because they're gonna raise their interest. I mean, they're gonna come out with higher interest rates. I mean, everybody's facing that. What's the expectation? The forecast is that interest rates are gonna come out the not interest rates, I'm sorry, inflation is going to come out right around the same thing for core CPI and for the year to year. The month to month, they're expecting a little bit of an increase on that Euro CPI, and for some reason, Great Britain pound, UK believes that their inflation rate is going to be decreasing. Interesting, interesting, interesting. They must think they're doing a very good job fighting inflation over there. We're going to see what's going on. Okay. Then we got an FOMC speaker on Wednesday. So a lot of medium impact news this week. Jobless claims on Thursday and Philly. Okay, so this is a good one, right? That's a good one. I would trade that as well, though. You feel me? A couple minutes after, but that's a good one. So we'll have some volatility coming through on Thursday. So might be more aware of that. Sometimes when there's high impact news later on in the week and not necessarily earlier on in the week, in my mind, I kind of like prepare to potentially see the markets play around until that high impact news, A, or B, to see a late reversal into the week, right? So versus how most people expect reversals towards the Wednesday, that Wednesday, whenever I see high impact news on a Thursday versus on a Wednesday, I'll kind of be like, okay, well, maybe we'll get that reversal a little bit later in the week. So we'll see what's going on with that. And then Friday, we got a Brazilian holiday if anybody's trading the Brazilian currency. But GBP retail sales, man, it's looking like a London session week, man. Back in my London session days. It's looking like a good old London session week. So we'll see what opportunities London session offers, and then we'll be able to get some good pullbacks, retracements, and action for New York session, which is typically a good thing. I really like when the markets give us an expansion or an aggressive move during London session, and then we can really play off of that going into New York session. So I like that. It's better that way anyways. But like I said, pretty smooth sailing week to be expected. So let's go ahead and pull up these carts, man. Let's go ahead and pull up these carts. Let me see. Let's go ahead and pull up these carts and let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on with the charts this week. So first and foremost, I'm gonna start off on a different dollar chart first. Wipe it. Let's go to the monthly. So as far as the dollar goes, for the month, starting off this week, you can see that, and you can see that so far in April, we've dipped below the low of February. Traded back below the sell side liquidity. Man, they just want me to be wrong. That's what they want me to be. They want me to be wrong. Not wrong, but my bias was for a bullish dollar, right? But seeing the price action that we've been getting on the dollar, I think we have a little bit more bearishness to go, right? Especially seeing how last week's candle closed below the bodies of these candles over here in January. But I am just going to be honest. I'm more in a response mode than a predict mode when it comes to the markets right now, especially the areas that you see that we're in areas of high areas of resistance, right? You got sell side liquidity over here that we dip below. We got sell side liquidity over here that we dip below, right? So whenever the market is trading in and away from areas like that and not aggressively, it's not expansion territory, right? It's decide territory. So I'm being patient and we're going to respond. So what I'm going to do today is I've been identifying some key areas. I identified the direction and I'm going to identify some key areas. And based off of that, it'll just be about when trading New York session this week, what areas are we trading into at the beginning of New York session? That's what I'll be paying attention to this week, right? Is what key levels are we responding to as the market, opens up at that time frame, opens up on those days. Now, I went ahead and did a couple things right before the session. I was looking at my chart and just looking at this bullish move in general on the dollar from the middle of about 2021 All right, middle of 2021, we got straight bullishness for about, what was that? From June 2021 all the way to October 2022. So for about a year and some change, what was that? About 15 months straight of bullish dollar. And now they are coming back, right? You know, at the end of the day, we got to a point where they just decided like that's too high, that's too high of a price for us to buy at, right? I mean, anybody would decide that. You go, you know, the price on something is raising for 15 months and you're buying it the whole time. I believe there's a point where you draw the line. Right? There's a point where you say enough is enough and you stand up for yourself. So that's what's going on right now. And just throwing the fibs from the low to the high on that move. You know, from the low to the high of that move, even if we just stick to the bodies of the candles, you can see that where we're at right now is just at that equilibrium level, right? Just at that halfway of that expansion. So as you can see, we got a little peak under it, right? Rejection, especially as they took liquidity here. But price action is still bearish. And we still have discount, we're approaching discount prices, right? We're approaching a 60%, 70% discount on the price that buyers were paying up here, right? Buyers were paying full price up here, and over the course of that 15 months, we're starting to approach the 60 to 70% discount, which for me is an area that entices buyers, right? That's an area where buyers are more likely to want to enter into the market. And right now I'm on the monthly time frame, right? So I'm not talking about, little money. I'm not talking about us, right? I'm talking about the big buyers, right? I'm talking about the central banks, right? The institutions, right? That's who I'm talking about, right? They're trading based off the monthly, the weekly, the daily, right? That's where they're looking at. So from just based off of that price swing, this is kind of that just ballpark area where they would really be enticed into the market. You can look over here as well, right? We have some previous highs, right? We have some previous highs. So just kind of looking to, as you can see, I can see us trading lower down into this before we start to see those expansions higher. So I'm being aware of that, and keeping that in mind. And with that being said, and I was just on the monthly and the weekly, it means that we would probably have a couple more days, possibly even weeks of the market being, being in a bearish trend, right? Being of a bearish bias. But trust and believe, overall, I still believe the dollar is going to take off on these cats. It's just a matter now of putting enough pain, right? Putting enough pain on the people who are looking to catch those buys, on the people who are really buying up on cryptos, buying up on stocks, right? You want to let them get comfortable so that when the dollar does shoot up, they can go ahead and sweep the market. And, even looking at crypto, right? Crypto is a good, indication. Even looking at crypto, you can see crypto's been bullish since December. We've been bullish on crypto, after going bearish for about the same amount of time, right? We were bearish on crypto. We saw a high. We saw tops on Bitcoin at 68K, right? About, 69K. And she dropped for about, what is that? 52 weeks straight. So for an entire year, right? For an entire year, we saw a bear cycle on Bitcoin. And we do have the halving coming up next year. So just things to be aware of, right? Now, with that being said, they filled a low right here at the end of last year, December. And from there, we got straight bullishness, right? I don't necessarily like stuff like this is cool. But I feel as though when it comes to Bitcoin, I feel like we have lower to go. And I feel like this is a perfect place for them to have left some liquidity to potentially coming back and grab it. Right. So that's something to be aware of. Looking at the monthly time frame on BTC. The thing is, though, that we've been bullish, right? Since that time, since the beginning of the year, since, December 1st, we've been bullish, right? January was bullish, February didn't really move, March was bullish, and then we opened it up April bullish. It's 3 straight months of bullishness for BTC. And this is the first time we've seen this much bullishness on BTC since 2020, right? Even in 2021, when the market was kind of seeing highs continue, well, since 2021, right? January, February, March, it was the last time, January, February, and March of 2021 was the last time we had 3 bullish months on crypto back to back. You feel me? So at the end of the day, looking at this weekly time frame, I've kind of got my eye on this mitigation level, right, on the monthly. When you look at the monthly time frame, I'm sorry, I want to go back to the monthly before we drop down to the weekly. And trust me, I'm gonna bring it all together. I know I didn't say I was gonna talk about BTC, but y'all better not play. Y'all know we about that crypto life. All right. So it's just at the end of the day, you can see that on the monthly time frame, this was that last bullish candle on BTC, that order block, aka, right, before we saw the sell off. Right, so this is our monthly order block on BTC, right? They had a little consolidation. We had the manipulation above these highs, right? Swept those highs right there. Manipulation above, and then we broke below the order block, right? All right, we broke below the order block here, February 2022, a year ago. And then we traded back up into the order block and did what? Accelerated lower, right? And just literally sweep the lows, demolished people's markets. This is where people was telling, oh, you still play, you still trading that Bitcoin, you're still buying that crypto. Yeah, grandpa, still buying that crypto. What are you talking about? Right? And that's when that's kind of when that happened, right? So now with that being said, the reason I point that out is because after that order block, the candle that traded back up into that order block, right? So boom, we dropped lower, and then we got manipulations higher. Boom, right here. Manipulations higher, right back into the order block, and then the sell-off. Who do you think manipulated the market to come back up into that order block, right? And so you guys know it's one of my favorite types of setups, right? This right here is kind of our mitigation candle, right? That's our mitigation candle. They got to come back and get that before they really go sweep the lows, right? Got to come back and get that. So with that being said, my ideas when it comes to BTC is potentially seeing a top for this current cycle, seeing a bit of a top of it once we come into this 35K to 38K range. So, still some room to kind of get in, take some buys if you know about that action, some good pricing in to do. But as far as I'm concerned, I think we have about 10K more liquidity on BTC to get that push up before we see them go ahead and break down, right? Now, around the same time that I expect a breakdown, now, if we hit this level and we keep going, then cool. I'll have reevaluated by then clearly, but based off of what I can see right now, that's what's in my eyes. And so when we look at this level, just around the same time as the BTC is hitting this level and starting to see that turnaround is around the same time that I would expect the dollar to be gaining its footing and taking some shooting up, and shooting up, right? So with that being said, that's the reason that I said on the dollar, I could definitely see them allowing it to fall just a little bit more because guess what? People getting out of the dollar, they're getting into these cryptos, they're getting into these stocks. So the dollar will continue to fall, right? And at the end of the day, as the dollar continues to fall, they just setting up, right? They just setting up so that they can go ahead and sweep the markets, take them things even lower. So with that being said, when you look at this monthly time frame, we had a consolidation period down here. We had an expansion, right? And we literally just expanded. It's been nothing else. And so what's happening right now is the retracement phase on this time frame. We're getting that retracement phase. So when we get in that retracement phase, I'm kind of having my eyes looking at the nearest fair value gaps, fair value gaps, right? That's kind of where my eyes are looking. So we kind of, we had our eyes here for a little second, but this was the bottom of the move right here, right? And this would be that last down move before the up move, right? So down in this area again is that fair value gap that we would be looking for them to fill, right? So that's why I say definitely could see them going ahead and dropping down into that $95 range, all right, on the dollar. Now, with that being said, and I take us even a little bit lower, right? Last week's candle closed below the January 30th candle. The important thing about that January 30th candle is that it swept these lows over here from May 22nd, right? These lows over here. bang, right? We saw them sweep those lows, and after they swept those lows, what did we get? We got an expansion, first expansion on the dollar in months, right? In months since last September, last August, we got a big acceleration, expansion, right? And then they came back, took highs over here, right? Took buy side liquidity over here, gave a little consolidation. We saw them go ahead and accelerate out, and then they traded back up into the order block, and then we saw them trade off, right? So let me see if it's a little more. No, it's more clear on the daily, right? And so yes, they traded up above that buy side liquidity. They left the last bullish candle here. They dropped below it, traded back into it, and then we saw the sell off. All right, so this area has been very important for us. It's been our support level, we should say. And you can see last week again, right? We got a dip below it, right? We got a dip below it last week, and they rejected again, okay? Very interesting area, right? But they left these double bottoms over here on the wicks, right? Left some double bottoms over there, so that's important to pay attention to. And let's see, what else did I want to show you guys? Also, this low, we can go to the daily now. I don't need to spend too much time on the weekly. You can look back at last week's weekly outlook for my real, my real higher time frame bias for real. But this essentially is our low of April right now. As of right now, this is our low of April. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop. I'm gonna drop that right there. April low, right? And daily sell side liquidity, right? That's this candle here, as well as where the double bottoms are, correct? Now, with that being said, April's high was here, right? This is April's high so far, right? April's high. And I'm going to tell y'all why it's important. Give me 1 second. All right. Now, with that being said, they swept down here. We saw a big expansion, right? Big expansion. A little bit of a retracement. They didn't properly trade back into this order block. They literally just skipped their way up to the buy side liquidity here, swept it. And then we saw them drop, hit the order block, come back, and then come back down. And this is where we are now. Again, they swept the sell side liquidity from February 2nd. They swept not only the sell side liquidity, but they took the lows of February. It's important, right? That's super important. Okay. Right. And so once they swept that sell side liquidity, this is what I've been paying attention to today, right? I've been paying attention to the way that we swept that sell side, and then we got a engulfing candle, right? So that leaves this sell side liquidity was taken, and then we have a bullish order block that was left here, right? So I would expect for them to trade back into this order block, right? And then give us some sort of an expansion, or based on the market phase that we're in, some sort of a retracement back into these levels up here, right? And so this brings us to, right, on this chart. Is it the same on the other chart? Yeah, on this chart, you can see that it's, we have this high on February, but I like it better on this chart, right? So check it out. On this chart, you can see that I have here that this is the daily buy side liquidity right here, daily buy side. You can see that they opened on April 10th, right? We opened here, which was last week's Monday. Yeah, last week Monday. We opened at 101.63. We closed at 101.73. And then on April 11th, the market opened up at 102.165, right? Good gap action, right? Good gap action on this chart specifically. But then when I go down to the lower time frame, right, you can actually see that big engulfing candle that took us all the way above that daily buy side, that gap that happened. Excuse me. So you can't see it on the daily time frame. Like when I go to the daily time frame, it looks like that's a high, right? On the daily time frame, there's nothing there. This is why I like looking at multiple charts. It's so interesting. There's nothing there on the daily time frame. I hope y'all paying attention. Like, there's nothing there. Look at that red box. There's nothing in the red box. Oh shoot. Goodness gracious. All right. So there's nothing there on the daily time frame. But then when I go down to my 4 hour time frame, I can see there's plenty there, right? We had this engulfing candle that took us back into the fair value gap from when we filled this high after this after that low from February, and they started to drop, and then we had that manipulated move back up before they continued to trade lower and take these lows from March. So this in itself, this manipulation candle is an interesting area for me, right? The open of this candle, because that candle technically doesn't even exist, right? Price opened here and closed up here, but there's nothing in between. It's just one bullish candle from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We just literally just bullishness, which you saw was not there on the daily time frame. So for me, I have eyes on that. And then also when I throw my fibs on this, this down move from the high of that, right, down to the low that we just filled, the premium, the 60 to 70% price increase, right, or price, drop that happened, the increase back up to the premium where sellers would be interested, and I'll put that right here, sellers interest, right? So that area right here is right inside of this candle, right? So this is where I meant by I'm not trying to predict the markets this week, but I'm identifying these areas that are very interesting, very important areas where a lot of liquidity is located, right? There's a lot of liquidity pools and a lot of liquidity voids laying around. And just remember, liquidity is what moves the market. Okay, so I find that area interesting, and I had to look at a different chart to find it, but you can even see it a bit here, right? I mean, when I go to the daily on this chart, it does show that we opened here and we closed up here. So it's a little bit more like actually able to see that daily buy side liquidity on this chart. All right. But on this chart, it's funny because the daily buy side liquidity is actually up there at April's high, right? It's not like that on the other dollar chart. And this one is dollar futures, right? So when I look at this dollar chart and we look at the daily buy side liquidity, I got to leave the lines on. The daily buy side liquidity is at this high here, but not at April's high. April's high is all the way up here on this chart, but the daily buy side is here. When I go down to this chart on the dollar, April's high is here. Oh, I guess this was April's high. I'm tripping. Here we go. April's high is there. And then we got daily buy side liquidity right below it. All right. Bang, like that. All right, cool. So that's kind of the idea. Now going down lower, right? Let's pay attention to the fact that right here, they swept below the lows, right? From February, they swept below February's open, right? So we wicked February's open and then accelerated out of that thing on Friday. And so I kind of got my eye, like I said, I'm paying attention. This right here is that order block. When I go down to the 4 hour time frame, okay, going down to the 4 hour time frame, and again, these other dollar charts show them a little bit cleaner, right? But you can see that same low that took the other low, right? They took it here on Friday, 8 a.m. New York session. They took the low and they gave the expansion, and they left that order block in place right here, right? Left that order block. Maybe if we go down to the hour, we can see that they retested it. No, they really just slid through that thing. All right, yeah, they really just slid through that thing. Okay, so yeah, we had them sweep the lows, expand higher. So this right here, for me, that is an expansion, right? This is showing me expansion type of moves. Now, you guys know I would love to see the dollar trade higher, okay? And this is the way that it would look. But I mean, I'm like I said, I'm responding to what they show us. So what I'm more so trying to show you guys is after seeing this type of price action where they swept the lows, expanded higher, and then we have all these levels of liquidity that I'm pointing out, right? We have the liquidity void sitting in here. We have the daily buy side liquidity up here. We have April's high up here. There's a number of different places for them to deliver price to out of this expansion. But remembering on the higher time frame, this is really actually would just be playing a retracement. That's what this would really be. It would really be playing a retracement, and looking at the weekly time frame is just not normal. I mean, not normal, but it is something to pay attention to, that we've had 5 straight weeks of bearish dollar, like 5 weeks in a row, nothing else, right? No bullishness, just straight bears for 5 weeks straight. At some point, they have to retrace, right? And what better time to retrace than right after we've taken the yearly lows? Mind you, this was the low of the year, right? Not just the low of February. This was the low of the year that we just attacked last week. Okay, and we attacked that. Now I feel we've gotten good liquidity, because guess what? If people took buys here, where would their stop losses be? Their stop losses would be below the wicks, right down here at the bottom, and they just annihilated them things. All right, so now that they've taken this liquidity, I want to know, where does price want to deliver to? Right? Where does price want to deliver? You know, where does it want to go to? And so that's what makes, you know, the things interesting to me. Now, with that being said, from this down move, the last up candle before these 5 weeks of straight bearishness, this is cute, but this is the last real up move before these 5 weeks of straight bearishness. You feel me? That was the last one. Exactly, after the sell side liquidity. You feel me? So this right here was that last up move before they came here and took the sell side liquidity. So on my chart here, you can see I mapped out that as the weekly order block, right? That is the weekly order block because it's the last up candle before the market's traded lower. And when we want to see the market expand, so if I want to see the market expand lower, then I want them to expand after rejecting from a order block of some sort, right? So being on the weekly time frame here, after this bullish candle, they came here, didn't close below this candle. This next week didn't close below this candle. This next week finally closed below this candle. And this next week traded right into that candle and traded away from it. But since then, we have had no bullish weeks. So that is still a key area for me to pay attention to. Oh no, I'm not on this chart. Right, so that is let me do a bullish order block. Bang. Right, so I got eyes on a couple different places when it comes to the dollar this week. All right, and that is definitely one of them. So inside of that order block, let's dissect it a little bit. Right, inside of that order block, what happened? All right, what happened? So remember, there's 4 different phases of the market, right? I talked to a couple people about this week, right? Phases of the market, right? You got expansion, you got retracement, got consolidation, you got reversals, okay? So if I was to point them out, right, from this order block, right, this is that last up move we talked about before the markets fell out lower. And so boom, you can see that we had, after taking the sell side liquidity here, okay, they dropped, they were expanding, and then they retraced, and then they expanded, and then they retraced, and then they expanded, and then they retraced, and then we got like a bit of a consolidation, right? And then we had a manipulation higher, retracement, and then expansion, and then we had a little bit of a consolidation, and then a manipulation where? Lower, right? Manipulation lower below the sell side liquidity, consolidation, sweep of sell side liquidity, expansion higher. Never came back and truly retested this order block. Maybe if I go to a different chart, maybe they'll prove me wrong. No, not even on that chart. We never traded back to it. Nope, never traded back to it, right? So that was kind of weird, right? That was kind of weird that they never traded back into that order block, but they got what they needed. They dropped down into the fair value gap though, right? So we had the expansion, we had the retracement, right? Boom, into the fair value gap, and then another expansion, retracement, expansion. And then this was the last up move, bit of consolidation. And then they did what? Manipulation above what? The buy side liquidity, right? Boom. Right? So in this move, right, if we're seeing this as an overall downtrend, especially on the weekly, it's very clear, right? You have lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and we're looking to get a lower low. Well, these retracements, they kind of happen from sweeps on liquidity on lower time frames, right? So for me, the way that they came up, we got that consolidation, manipulation above the highs, and then they traded below. Traded back into the order block, expansion, right? Retracement, expansion, retracement, expansion. And so now here we go again. We finally came back down, swept daily sell side liquidity, right? Right here. And we got the expansion. So I need to see them deliver to something. They have to deliver to something. It's almost like matching puzzle pieces almost. You feel me? It's almost like matching puzzle pieces. So that's why I'm paying attention to the areas where sellers would be interested. But I really need to, I really need to pay attention because there's multiple areas that sellers could be interested. Sellers could be interested here at that gap that I described to you guys, and the premium of this drop. However, it's very interesting to me because again, on this time frame, there's no price action. There's no price action above this candle, and on every other time frame there is. So that seems very luxurious to me. We have April's high, and then we have this order block up here that we've been marking up. Right, so I just want to, like I said, as we come into these zones, you guys can mark these zones yourself, right? But as we come into these zones, I want to pay attention to what time we're coming into what zones, and then act based off of that, because we're not swing trading, right? We're intraday trading. So all I need the higher time frames to have told me is the areas to be paying attention to, and then from there, as long as those areas are, whenever we're trading into those areas based on this bias and this premise, whatever's happening at 8:30 a.m., we know where we're looking for price to deliver to, right? If we are trading above this buy side liquidity at 8 a.m. in the morning, and we see, the market push up super aggressively at 8 a.m., 8:30, those are signs that I'll be taking sells, right? Those are signs that I'll be taking sells. If, we're trading, above an area like this at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll let them have it, and I'll wait and see what's going on 8:30 a.m. the next morning. But either way it goes, you kind of just want to identify these areas. But if they do go ahead and trade past these levels, then yes, this is that last line of defense that I'll be looking to see them trade away from or to target. You know what I'm saying? So now, with that being said, we can go a little bit lower, and then I'll go ahead and check out some of the currency pairs, right? Now, going lower on here, again, we saw them sweep the lows, expansion. So I'm paying attention now to, after an expansion, I want to see a retracement, but a retracement into where, right? Where would I want to see them retrace into? I would be expecting to see them retrace back down to the order block or into this fair value gap, and that's this entire zone right here. You feel me? This entire zone is interesting. And so again, if 8:30 tomorrow morning or 8:30 Tuesday morning comes and we're trading below, into a zone like this aggressively, then I'll be looking for buy opportunities into the buy side liquidity up here, the daily buy side liquidity up here. That's what I would be looking for, right? And so it's just a matter of what happens. If we trade into these zones tonight, for example, London session or whatever the case is tonight, then I'm gonna let them expand. I'm gonna let them do what they want to do. Where do they want to deliver to? And then Monday morning, Tuesday morning, 8:30 a.m. we come around. And if we're trading above the buy side liquidity, if we're trading into these fair value gaps up here, then I'll be looking for those selling opportunities. You know what I'm saying? So just a matter of, like I said, being aware of where we are and when we are. You know what I'm saying? That's the most important thing. Where we are and when we are. And on the hourly, you can see we got sell side liquidity here, right? For them to come and attack. Right? So yeah, we gonna play the waiting game, or I wouldn't say the waiting game, but the response game with the dollar this week, and that'll give us exactly what we need to see when it comes to everything else. But yeah, after seeing a move like this one, right? After seeing something like this, definitely wanted to see them deliver to some type of liquidity. And they did trade above this liquidity, so that's something to pay attention to. But yeah, I feel like there's just way too much. I feel like there's just really key areas that they can attack here. So got my eye on that, and I'll allow the dollar to kind of show me a little bit more into the week so that I can have a better understanding of that. So yeah, that's what we got going on with the dollar, which makes me want to look at a couple different pairs. So we take a look at UJ. All right, we can take a look at UJ, USD, JPY. All right. And when I take my eyes on UJ and I look at the last month or so, what was that, March 16th? I'll go with March. We'll go based off of March. And I'll go back out to my weekly time frame real quick. Its high was February's high. Got March's low right here. Where was the opens of these months? All right, looking at USD/JPY, USD/JPY trends the same direction. Typically correlates with the dollar, right? Typically we see UJ correlate with the dollar, and similar type of time for UJ, right? We saw them go ahead and sweep, beneath the body of these candles here from May. We got that expansion, and then you see, what did they do? Traded down into that order block on the monthly time frame, right? This was January's order block right here, and they traded into that with last month's candle, March, and then this month we started to see some bullish price action. Again, I love to see the dollar go ahead and trade higher, and that's what's going to have a really big effect on UJ. But similar to the dollar, we can keep our eyes open on UJ based off this monthly time frame. We can pay attention to these areas of discount where buyers would really be enticed into the market. Right? On a higher time frame, we can pay attention to those. But just keep note that before the UJ started to drop again, this was that last up candle here on the monthly time frame, that October candle. So that was our last, how do I say it? That's our last bearish order block. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a box on that. All right, so we can be aware of that level. Now dropping into a lower time frame, right? After we drop from there, we've seen no price action back into that on the weekly. But they did just go ahead, like we said, took the liquidity here, traded into this order block, and we've seen an expansion, seen them come back into this. So I was looking to see some aggression from here last week on UJ, and we did, right? We saw them drop into this right here at the beginning of April when they traded back into that order block, and then last week we had a bullish week. And I feel as though these are those levels that I'm kind of looking at on UJ. right? These relatively similar highs, as well as if we look at the bodies of these candles, right? Those are equal highs. Sometimes I pull out the line chart and you can see it very clearly on the line chart, right? That there's liquidity sitting above that, right? Above that area. I ain't gonna lie, man. Dollar look a little bullish, man. The bulls in me want to just say, yeah, dollar's going up, but it's okay. We're gonna pay attention to what they got going on this week. But March's low here, February's high here. Traded back into our order block, mitigation candle. They traded back into that. Let's go down to the daily. Let's see what we got going on for this week. With this week, so coming out of February, when we formed this high of February and left this sitting up here, this buy side liquidity sitting up there. Man, my Airbnb is going crazy right now. Put this thing over here. All right. So yeah, buy side liquidity sitting above that. But where did they trade back into? Let's see. Yeah, man, UJ never traded back into this order block for real. This was that last bullish candle. This was that up candle here that we kind of marked off. They traded down. Yes, inside of it, we had some breaks, but they never, like, this in itself is a fair value gap on the daily. Something to pay attention to. All right, something to pay attention to. All right. So that makes this buy side liquidity very enticing. All right. These levels of buy side are very enticing. February high is our buy side liquidity, our most recent buy side liquidity on here. And so once they traded back up into that, I mean, this whole thing was expansion lower, retracement, expansion lower, bit of consolidation, retracement, expansion lower, retracement, expansion lower. And then they went ahead and had that last down move here, right? This was that last down move, kind of how we mapped out this gray box, that last down move. And then we had that bullishness, expansion. And then they traded back into where? Into the order block, into the fair value gap. And then we had the expansion, all right? And then we had another just straight expansionary moves. And then this right here was that last up candle before the market did what it's doing right now, which is retraced back into the same order block, and now leaving sell side liquidity after, sweeping sell side liquidity here and leaving this low for March. But now, of course, the market is constantly leaving blueprints. So now we have liquidity located underneath here. So the question would be, where do we want to deliver to? And the important thing to understand is where exactly, right? The important thing is to understand where are we trading from, all right? And that's kind of what I'm identifying. So it's like, boom, we got this higher high. They traded back down here, started to give us lower lows, lower highs. This was that last up candle before the down move right here. This is our order block. Oh, I don't want that to say kill zone. We'd be out here taking trades. But yeah, that was the last order block there. And we never really traded back into that thing. So there's kind of what we would say. How does he say it? How does Michael say it? Buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency, right? So basically a fair value gap, a bearish fair value gap. So right here, boom, got a fair value gap right there that we can trade back into. Okay, so I'm paying attention to that. Now, I'm not saying the dollar is ready to be bullish overall. But I'm not gonna lie, the signs kind of show me that we may be expecting a bullish week at least, like, or at least a bullish couple days. Like, there's a lot of buy side targets. Maybe that's the least biased way to say it, right? We got a lot of buy side targets especially after again sweeping down into this order block, give us another expansion. They traded back down into this order block and it gave us another expansion. Now they traded back down into this fair value gap here, right? And we're getting another expansion, right? So yeah, that part. So for me, when it comes to UJ for this week, or at least for these next couple of days, starting the week off, I would expect them to be delivering to an area like this. Or I would say I have my eyes on them delivering to a place like that. Going down to my 4-hour time frame. I guess you would say that they did, we had that expansion from here. They traded back down into the order block. And so there's a fair value gap in itself right here inside of this order block. You see, it's just a matter of finding key levels inside of key levels, inside of key levels, inside of key levels. You feel me? So yeah, this was that initial expansion. We had the trade back into the order block from this last, this whole down move. This right here was that last down candle before they traded higher. They traded back into the down candle. We got an expansion, higher high. They traded back down into this fair value gap, gave us a higher low, right? So from this fair value gap, where would price want to deliver, right? That would be the question. And I mean, of course, they did just trade back above the buy side here. But I don't think that would be that's not the place that I would be looking for them to deliver to, right? If this was that up move and they trade back into this fair value gap, then the buy side that I'm paying attention to is this buy side liquidity. All right, boom. All right, so this is my targets, especially after coming out of this bullish expansion. So if the dollar, as long as DXY doesn't like take this buy side like tonight or something, I feel like that's where they got their sights on, man. Feel like they got their sights on up there. So looking at UJ, and trust me, they're leaving good sell side under here. It's going to come crashing down, but just for the concept of intraday trading and looking at this week as a whole, after seeing them sweep there, I want to see that next expansion. So after on this 4-hour, you can see we had an expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement, expansion, consolidation, manipulation above the highs, traded lower, traded back into the order block here, and then they traded back down. Now we are back inside of this, I guess you would say, mitigation candle from the lows over here, and they accelerated from there. We gave us a higher high. So I would like to see at what time and at what price we trade back into this fair value gap on DXY. All right, and if they are truly going to expand to this, I shouldn't see them trade lower. I shouldn't see them trade below these candles. I don't remember what it's called, but it really shouldn't even trade below the 50% of this from this low to this high. It really shouldn't even trade below that. I don't remember what it's called. It's not consequent encroachment. It's I don't remember. Right? Which words sound expensive? Okay, so yeah, so I likes that. All right, so this is not a trade idea, but I'm just kind of giving it is a trade idea, but like not a like as soon as it gets here, take it. It's more of an idea of, again, at what time are we trading into this level? And based on that, because we want to buy in sell candles and we want to sell and buy candles, right? So again, 8:30 a.m. comes any of these days and we're pushing aggressively down into this zone. At that time, 8 a.m., 8:30, 7:30, yeah, it's buy time. It's buy time for me. And just up to these zones up here. So that's kind of what I'm looking to see on UJ. But of course, overall, I feel as though we do have, like I pointed out on the weekly and the monthly, we do have this, we do have this massive imbalance that they can fill before they trade higher. And at this point, they're just a little bit too close to it for me for them to leave it there and go create new highs. So as much as I would love for the dollar to be really going up right now, it's a little bit too obvious. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit too close to liquidity voids that they can fill, right? So that is what I'm seeing there. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing there, man. I could see them selling off from up there. So that's UJ, GU. And I mean, GU does not make it any better. Like, I get it. It's been bullish. But like, this many lows back to back never ever ended well for anybody. Excuse me. Right? These lows. Got a low here, untaken, low here, untaken, low here, untaken. Let me show you an example of when stuff like that happens. Right? Let me show you an example. Right? There's multiple. You can probably already see it. Right? There's multiple examples already here. But like, for example, check this out on gold. Right? Gold had this high, left this high, and then they left this high, and then they left this high. And gold said, give me that, and then give me all of that very quickly, right? Very quickly they took that stuff back. You know what I'm saying? So it's like those highs and lows took 37 days to play out, and they took it back in a week. They took it back in a week. Yeah, they don't play that type of time. You know what I'm saying? They do not like playing that type of time. So looking at GU, this is cute. This is cute. I ain't gonna lie, it's cute. Just remember what we was just showing on the dollar, right? Remember what we was just showing on the dollar. I think they can aggressively take that stuff back real quick. Aggressively. Now, let's see. I haven't looked at the higher time frames on GU in a little bit. I've been looking at euros. I've been looking at the euro a little bit more, but I do feel like I like what GU got setting up. So let's take a look, right? On GU on the monthly time frame, same thing as the dollar from the high of June down to this low, okay? You can see we're starting to approach that equilibrium area, right? And I can go down all the way to the candle. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me, guys. Right? But let's just go off the body for right now. Okay, that's where the majority of, volume is happening, right? And let's just say from 62 up to 78, that's our premium price on the monthly time frame that sellers would be enticed into the market, right? And our last real bullish candle, like, shoot, man, we had a whole year of bearishness on GU almost, but before that happened, the last up candle was right inside of that, I'm sorry, that's a mitigation, but the last up candle was up here. So that last so that makes that our order block, right? The last up candle, bullish candle, boom. Okay. And even here on the monthly, you can see how they traded down below it, traded back into it, and then we got the aggression, right? Traded back into it one more time, we got aggression. Okay, and then even this buy back up into it, guess what? They mitigated it on this next candle right here. Boom, traded back into that candle, and then they sold off immediately. All right, so I'm paying attention to this, essentially what would be our mitigation candle. Right, paying attention to that. Right, paying attention to them being able to get back up into that. Now, with that being said, on this monthly time frame, consolidation, manipulation above the highs, expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement back into where? Into the fair value gap. Bingo, right? So this area is very enticing when it comes to GU, right? Very enticing when it comes to GU. Now, we never saw them come back down into this order block, right? Because this was the last down candle before they started to expand higher, right? Now, let's go down to the weekly and see if they did trade back into that down candle, right? So, boom. I mean, it's a little bit different on the weekly, so let's adjust. Bingo, right? On the weekly time frame, this was that last down candle. I would count this whole thing just because you could see, that those two together. But boom, that was that last down candle. And then we had the push up, and then they traded back into it right here. Traded back into that down candle right here. Oh, I did not remember they was playing. Right? Traded back into it here, expanded higher. And so this became our mitigation candle because this was a manipulated move down here. This was a manipulated move down so that they could take trades and take positions inside of that order. And so now this becomes our mitigation candle, right? Right here on the weekly. Becomes our mitigation candle right there. All right, so I got eyes on that level. I mean, we did have these lows here, right? Get swept, right? Before they, went traded higher. Let me take a look at the discount as well. See what it looks like from the wicks. Okay, interesting. But yes, they never really traded back down into this mitigation candle or fair value gap, right? But right here, I guess you could argue potentially that they dipped below the lows, but what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at where the target would be, if they wanted to come back lower before going ahead and expanding up to that area, right? So again, just on a weekly time frame though, we'll pay attention. Boom, we had lows here. We saw them trade expand higher. They came down, took the sell side liquidity, and again, they've expanded higher. So right now, based on where we are at this moment, and let me take note of the time that this happened. So right here was January's highs that they just took. So they just took Jan high, weekly BSL, weekly buy side. And that's what they just took last week. They just traded above January's high and traded back lower. Somebody else just traded below January's highs. And I mean January's lows. And I think it was February lows, not January lows. And it was the dollar, right? We just traded below February lows and we're taking, we saw an expansion, right? We saw an impulse out of that area. Similar thing for GU. We just traded above January's highs, probably just traded above February's highs as well. Yeah, because February opened right when January closed, yeah. Right, so boom, that was February's highs as well that they just traded above, and then we got them, got this bearish order block here, and they went ahead and accelerated away from that. So I'm not gonna lie, I feel as though, ideally I would see them drop down into this before they trade higher, but even just like without being so drastic, there's a lot for them to come back into here. So let's just pay attention to this weekly order block for right now, which is here, right? And that was the last down candle before they started to push higher. Last down candle, they traded up, traded back down below it even, right? And that's when they swept everything, and then they expanded higher. So seeing them trade back into that down candle, or at least what I want to pay attention to is the fair value gap. If you would count this as a trade into that, I at least want to see them retrace back into the fair value gap before seeing them go ahead and attack the buy side liquidity up here. All right, let's go down to the daily. Right, so boom, and up. So this was that order block, right? Manipulation below the sell side liquidity. Saw them trade higher, and then they retraced back down into the order block, and then they went ahead and took off. Okay. All right, boom. Now we got our mitigation candle right here, where they forced the market back into that order block and they took off. And guess what? We traded back into that here and we expanded. So I'm not gonna lie, man. We're gonna see it. We're gonna look at Euro and we're gonna see how it's looking. But yeah, this down inside this order block looks juicy still. Still looks like we got some good liquidity to clear out in there. Down below those lows. I like to find my targets first. If you haven't noticed, right? When I'm looking at the charts and stuff, like I like to find my targets before I find my entry. If I know where price is going, then it's a lot easier for me to be confident in my entry. Because I could have whatever type of entry. I could have not the best entry. I could have a big stop loss. I could be late. I know where price is going. And that's what makes me a little bit more confident, right? So if, and again, this is based on if the dollar is going to give us what we want to see this week, which would be a little bit of just a pop. All I need is a pop, my boy. That's all we need to see on a dollar. Just a little pop. Now, April's lows, let's go based off the months as well, right? April's lows right here. All right. That was April's open as well. And where was the low of the year so far? Oh, okay. And that was the low of the year from January that they went ahead and rated, and then they traded higher. Okay. Okay. Yeah, GU, not as clear as I want it to be, but it will reveal itself. That was the last down candle here. Go to the 4-hour. Last up candle. They dropped below, traded back into it, and then they fell off. All right. Yeah, G, what you want to do, man? Let's look at last week's highs and lows and see if it gives us any context. The high of last week, oh, yeah, April's high was last week. Okay, cool. And then the low of last week was here. It was last week's low. And I'm not going to lie to you, last week's low looks a little bit faster to get to than the highs, of course, right? It's right here. So yeah, I'm going to have to keep my eye on GU. I don't have anything concise yet. There's too many possibilities, in my opinion, right now. But feel free to share in the forum, you know what I'm saying, or in the chat if you know what it is that you see or what it is that you're looking at. Because, yeah, it's not the clearest to me right now on GU. But I do know one thing, and that I feel as though these lows, these lows are in prime position to go ahead and get taken. But we do have GBP CPI this week, right? Yep, makes sense, right? It's a lot of GBP news this week, so I think a lot will be revealed to us. Just gotta be patient. The next news we got coming out for them is on Tuesday. Tuesday, their unemployment rate is going to be coming, so we can pay attention to that, and that's going to be dropping 2 a.m. Yep, 2 a.m. And so this is what I mean by, like, especially with these European pairs, it's nice when they make their expansion or their news releases during London session, because chances are we get a more clear opportunity to find a retracement opportunity during New York session. You feel me? So that's GU. I'll definitely talk more on that throughout the week with the squad. And EU, right? EU. If you're watching the YouTube video, man, feel free to go ahead and click the link in our bio and go ahead and join the server. That way you can actually get an idea of what I'm seeing throughout the week. You feel me? Yeah, EU, similar type of time. Thing about EU is that we're getting pretty close to this monthly premium zone. Getting pretty close to it on EU. Yeah, we focused on the currencies today, man, but that's because, like I said, it's not exact clarity. I'm more so responding to the market. But based off what I gave on DXY, I feel like I gave some really good sauce on DXY today. You could really take that and just based off those ideas, or based off those key areas and those key levels, apply that to the currencies you trade or the assets that you trade, and get an idea for what price we're at what time. You feel me? Yeah, Euro just literally just shot up, never came back into this monthly order block. Let's go down to the weekly, see what they did. Yeah, they was moving with speed, clearly. All right, because they never traded back into it. We just literally got straight expansion out of that thing. All right. Could almost argue there's a bit of a fair value gap in here. All right. Could definitely argue there's a bit of a fair value gap in there on the weekly. Very bullish she has been, though, Euro. Very bullish. Where could you be heading? Just took weekly buy side liquidity here. Oh, man, look at that gap. That's ugly. That's ugly. That's ugly, all right. So, yeah, we had the expansion. Bit of a retracement, expansion, good retracement. Came back under the buy side, the sell side liquidity here. And then we got another expansion out. So, let's focus on where we're at right now. Boom, order block. Similar action, right? Expansion, retracement, expansion, retracement, expansion, reversal, right? Probably some consolidation there on a lower time frame. Traded right back up to the bottom of this wick of this candle, which was the last bullish candle. So back up to that order block. And then they sold off again, came right into the previous fair value gap slash order block, and it consolidated, manipulated lower, took the lows, and then we seen the expansion. All right. Then on this daily time frame, we seen them trade back into this order block. All right, boom, expanded, traded back into this daily order block, and then boom, we saw them go ahead and trade higher. Again, traded back into that mitigation candle, traded higher. Yeah, EU, what you want to do, man? What you want to do? Yeah, I'll keep my eye on EU as well. I don't really like GU or EU today at this moment. personally. Need a little bit more data from them. So yeah, they may not be my favorites going into the week. Let's check out GJ. About to wrap up soon. Been on here for a clean hour. Yeah, GJ is an interesting one indeed. So GJ, over the past, since that same time area, since that 2021, now you saw I pulled out the fib on this whole drop because we're getting into those premium levels on GJ. So potentially start looking for some sells soon. However, this last up move here that we had, that's kind of our order block right now. They haven't traded up to it yet. All right, not even to the bottom of the candle or to the wick. Right, so haven't traded back up into that yet, based on, you know, these lows that we filled here. GJ swept. We got some good old, you know, good sweep that they did here, right into this order block, right? That last down candle before they decided to turn around. Swept the lows and traded into the order block straight away, and that's where they expanded from. And then they came back into the mitigation candle, and they expanded yet again, leaving. Hold on, let me put that fib cheat code real quick. Okay. So yeah, premium on GJ is right up in here. I mean, discount, right? Where buyers would want to hop into on the monthly, right up in there. And we can see they never traded back to it. Okay, cool. Not a problem. We're right now right back at this weekly order block on GJ. Might be, we'll see how this week plays out, man. I don't see us getting to premium and discount areas on a lot of different pairs. Expansion lower, a bit of a consolidation. Never really manipulated the lows, but they did expand higher. Saw them trade back into our fair value gap here. We traded even higher, all the way back up to the order block that we're at right now. So potential bullishness to look for. I mean, bearishness to look for on the pound this week. GJ has slightly correlated with the dollar for a few weeks, but it doesn't always have to. So we'll see how this goes on GJ. But yeah, my favorite one that I honestly right now, my favorite one is definitely UJ. Definitely UJ would be my favorite set. The way that they're looking. Indices is cool. You know, they found a high similar to Bitcoin. We had the high of indices here in 2021. You can see that was that last up move here. This whole thing was that last up move, really, before the market fell off. And that's where they traded back into, right here. All right, so they dropped below, traded back into it here. And then they went ahead and dropped again, left this mitigation candle. Bink. And they traded back up into that there, and then they fell off. I definitely could see us trading back up to this fair value gap before we fall off. All right, I could definitely see that because now we got this weekly buy side right here. Hit the order block, traded to the order block again, expanded. Mitigation candle right here. And they traded back to that and they took off. Keep an eye on that zone right there for NASDAQ. Last week, they did go ahead and take some buy-side liquidity right here, though. From August 2022, took some daily buy-side right there. And then we dropped off. Now we're trading back into this, I guess you would say, order block, right? Back into this order block now. It's looking a little fugly right now, though. It's definitely looking a little fugly. Up. Look at that chop. Expansion. Got a bit of a consolidation here, so I'd expect to see some sort of a manipulation, which I guess we did have here, that manipulation here. And this was that last bullish candle before the drop off. That's what they just rejected from on Friday, right? They traded right back up to that order block and traded away from it. But yeah, I don't really like what they're doing at this moment either. So yeah, UJ looks the cleanest. But with that being said, they very much could be getting set up so that they can manipulate lower to continue higher. That makes sense. But you see, when I start doing that could be's, I don't like that. I don't like that. So yeah. Patience, young grasshopper. Patience. We'll see what they want to deliver going into tomorrow. But if they are gonna retrace, this is that area that I'm paying attention to. Because like I said, I could see them targeting it up here. So I'll put an eye up there. I could definitely see them targeting up there. But I feel like we can come back and grab this fair value gap before they do. But it's not supported on the lower time frame just yet. Right? I mean, they just came back up into that same weekly order block, like we said, looking at it here on the hour. Bang. You can see they swept the buy side liquidity